2014-15 school year. And the Board of Education needs to decide what they're going to do with that 18-acre site, including all the athletic fields that are used by a whole lot of folks in our community. Do the development into housing, condos, apartments, offices, retail space? Or do we repurpose Central and the entire complex into a arts and recreation complex, which would include a performing arts center, all the athletic fields, pool, gymnasium, classroom for the arts, and recreation in the community, including senior and teen centers, fitness centers, art, music, theater, dance studios, and the like. A grassroots community organization, PARC, the Plymouth Arts and Recreation Complex Committee, was formed earlier this year to determine whether it would be feasible to convert the school into an arts and recreation complex. There have been several public forums, a lot of community input, and there appears to be considerable community support for such a facility. If you were at the Penn Theater a week ago Monday, get a pretty good idea. We had a packed house, people interested in supporting that particular effort. But we believe in order to really fulfill the potential of that facility, it would really take a collaboration of the school district, the city, and the township. I don't think anyone can do it. I don't think any two can do it. I think it really takes all three entities. We've taken a pretty good look at this. This is a big project. It would serve the entire greater Plymouth community, but it would really take all the entities in the community to really support that. Now, some have suggested that, maybe this complex should be located in the township. After all, most of the residents reside in the township. But we believe it would be much better located downtown at that particular site. It needs to be centrally located. I think that's a plus in the city and the township, and certainly downtown locates it in the center geographically. I think the Village Theater is a good example of where you don't want to put it. The Village Theater is really too far from any main downtown district. When we perform there, Michigan Philharmonic, people want to go to a restaurant before or a restaurant after, and there's just nothing there. And they come to go to the concert and they leave. And it just becomes a destination as opposed to an evening out. The Penn Theater, the library, Historical Museum, Kellogg Park, and the Cultural Center are all located right downtown. And I think a facility like we're discussing here really needs to be located in that general area. People want the restaurants and cafes and within walking distance of these destinations in order to fulfill their particular time out or that particular evening. And nonprofits that are located in the city are not going to come out to the township and move their offices out there if it were located elsewhere. They need the traffic for marketing, for ticket sales, and for support activities within the city or within the immediate geographic area. I've lived in Plymouth Township for 43 years, and I've never made the distinction between Plymouth and Plymouth Township. I live in Plymouth, and it's always been Plymouth, and it will always be Plymouth, and I really see it as one community. This is my home. And I think the city and the township really do share a relationship where each really benefits from the other. The city is certainly a key selling feature for the township, and the township shoppers and eaters certainly are critical to the success of the business district in Plymouth. When we raise money for the Penn Theater, nobody said, well, I live in the township, so I'm not going to support the theater. In fact, 9 of the financial supporters of the Penn Theater reside in the township, not in the city. So I think we do see, those of us that reside in this community see it as really as one community. So I'd like to think we can rise above boundaries and the marking of territory and recognize that we really do need each other and work together and get this one done. I think it's really the right thing to do in this particular project. So we're asking the township to engage with the city, the school district, and the park steering committee to help assess the feasibility of the project. We're not asking for support of the project. We're asking for support in determining the feasibility and viability of this project. And if we can establish that, and I think that's going to take 18 to 24 months to really go through all the steps to achieve that. And if we can establish the feasibility of it, then we let the voters decide. And I think, you know, as this community needs to come together on projects, I think this is one where they really can. So thank you for your time.
Questions of question? Sure. You have time?
Oh, I have the time. I have plenty of time.
Do you have any idea how much Judy wants for the site?
How much the school district wants for the site? Well, that's a good question. I've put my own numbers on it, and they have just now, in fact, in the last 2 weeks, sent out bids for an appraiser. If you want me to venture a guess, I think it's around $2.5 million. I think that's what it's worth. Now, we'll see what the appraisers come in. But that's what it would be worth if they just sell it off and you put in 60 homes on the site, and they're probably worth, you know, at most $50,000 for a bare lot. Kind of puts a fence
Do
around.
you think because we are not going to be paying for the bond issue for the schools to go south, maybe they might come down in price if we do go to get together?
Well, that would certainly be a topic for discussion. I can speak for the school board. At this point, all we've asked them to do is to hold off just selling it. If they put it up for auction and they sell it in January, they said they're going to make a disposition in January, and they sell it to the highest bidder, and we get a CVS or a Walmart in there, you know, how could we approach it?
What was your preliminary assumption for demolition and construction costs?
My number was $750,000, and the school district's of $725,000 arrived completely independently.
Well, wait a minute, to do what?
To demolish the
Demolition
building.
and construction.
No, not the construction.
Oh,
Demolish
that's
and construction, including purchase price, give or take, is going to be in the $25 million range. Now, there are some plans the city would like to substantially improve the athletic fields. They'd like to put down artificial turf. A lot of enhancements to the track. If we do that, that's on top of the 25, and that could drive it to 30 in the 25 to 30 range, depending on how fast and how far we would go with the athletic fields. And again, you know how these things are preliminary at this point. We need 2 years really to sit down with every user group and clearly define what everybody needs, what they can pay, what the expenses are going to be. And I think we need to raise some private funds. I'd like to see us raise $5 million from private funds, and I think that's doable, based on conversations I've had. Now, it's going to take us 24 months, and I think at that point, if we have $5 million worth of private funding in a project, and if we've got clearly the revenue and the expenses nailed down, then, you know, we're going to have to go to the voters and let them decide. Our initial costs were to fund a $25 million bond, would probably be in the range of 7/10 of a mil. Probably between 7/10 and a mil for the city and the township, and how you want to allocate it, I don't know. We got to sit down and talk about that. But that would raise about $1.5 million a year to service $25 million bond.
You said you wanted to let yourself with feasibility. What would that involve?
I would involve 1 or 2 folks that would sit down with
What
us.
goes into the determination of whether it's a feasible project or not?
I think we need to sit down and figure out what would the township like to see in this project? What would the city like to see? What does the school district need? Because they want to use the Performing Arts Center. They want to use the athletic fields. I want to know how many days, how many.
Something that you would still pursue?
I think there's a need for everything that we're suggesting here in the community. And certainly it becomes more intense or more essential if that project goes away. That's all I ask at this point. And then we can make a decision as to whether we want to proceed any further. And I can lay out, we've got a fairly detailed plan on how we might go through this entire process. And I'd love to sit down with whoever is designated to do it and to go through that plan, and we can make adjustments accordingly. But we have an outline of a 2-year plan that would take this to a millage in November of 2015. We are 24 months away. One of the problems, or not one of the concerns the school district has, is that does this drag on too long? And what we have proposed is that we set up milestones over this 2-year period, and if we're not achieving those milestones, then okay, they can dispose of the property. But we're asking them to hold off for 24 months and doing anything with the property.
Appreciate all your hard work you put into this.
Well, a lot of work has gone into it. There's a lot of people really, really believe in this thing. I'm telling you, I have never seen the kind of community support for any project I've gotten into. New Village Theater, that was a push. I mean, it was out in the middle of nowhere. That was a difficult. The Penn Theater was easy. That was a week. That was done. Made 16 phone calls. We raised all the money for it because there was a lot of sentiment and a lot of passion towards the Penn Theater. And I sense the same thing in Central Middle School. This will get a tremendous amount of support from the community. I don't have any doubt about that.
What about the YMCA? Is this the kind of facility that the YMCA would build?
I don't-
YMCA?
I met with them. I've had several meetings with the Y. They're not interested in building it. They would like to operate it. And we have some concerns about that. I think there are some things they're pretty good at, but whether you want to turn over the operation to our facility, I'd have serious reservations about that. And I think we've got that feedback from the community too.
I want to make some comments. First of all, Dan, I don't agree with you about the community between the two. I helped get the library built. There's 9 people that were involved with it back in '94. I was urged by the Township Board back then not to build it in the city, to build it in the township, and I said, no, it needs to be in the city. They said, you're not going to see an increase in property values in the township, the city will. And they were absolutely right. We averaged 80% of that bill, and we saw no economic gain from it. Later on tonight, there's going to be another proposal about a recreation center in this township. We've been talking about it for a few years. We bought some property a couple of years ago off of tax foreclosure for the purpose of recreation. I've had boards up here. We've had a lot of people inquire about recreation like Livonia has and like Canton has. And this doesn't, besides the fields, does not offer that much of a recreation facility to the citizens of Plymouth Township. It offers an auditorium. It doesn't, and swimming pools. So we're going to be, if you stay around, you'll see what will be proposed later. But I disagree with that. We've worked with the city on numerous occasions, and unless it comes to financial benefit for them, and at the expense of township residents, that's the only time they get in. If it's not to their benefit, they want nothing to do with us. Recently, with the fire department, they pulled up and left because they're going to save a couple $100,000 a year. People forget that 10 years ago, we put $250,000 extra in to build that underpass, the city's portion. So the underpass gets built within 2 years of our agreement. So there is some of that here, and I agree with you, there's some residents that think just like you do, but I think there's a lot of residents that also look out for their values of their homes and also on where their money's going. And unless it economically benefits their house instead of the prices in the city, I don't think they're going to go for it. But that's my opinion.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you for your time. I thought I got 3 minutes. We have a lot more than that, so thank you.
Well, the superintendent of schools was here one time, we gave him about 35, I think, also. So, other members of the public that could address the board at this time? Okay, if not, we'll close that portion, which is the public comments. And we'll go to our public hearing, which is our request for, actually is a 2014 budget, the township budget, general fund budget, and public hearing for that. Please, page 104 of our packet. Okay. And this is